My grandfather used to say that you can judge a man's wealth not by the size of his pocketbook, but by the depth and breadth of his friendships. And I think the evidence shows that if you had more friends than Commissioner Hall, even if you were from Ole Miss. Arneman, you look pretty good in that maroon tie down there. I first met Dick Hall nearly 30 years ago. I was a skinny teenager getting involved in Mississippi politics, and he was a state senator who was serving as chairman of the United Republican Fund, which is the main fundraising arm of the Republican Party. We met at a party function, and for whatever reason, he took an interest in me and became a mentor of such in my life. In 1999, Governor Kirk Fordyce appointed Dick to the Transportation Commission, which ultimately resulted in me becoming a part of his official staff and the MDOT family. I always got a kick out of the fact, and a few of you may remember this, that when Governor Fordyce appointed Dick to the Transportation Commission, he kind of had a hope that he would work to abolish the commission. Dick instead went on to serve over 5 full terms as Transportation Commissioner, becoming the longest one in the state's history. And I brought this up to him about 2 or 3 months ago and asked him about that fact, and he quickly responded that he did it to pave the way for Mike Cheney to do the same thing at insurance. Commissioner, I thought you'd appreciate that. But I believe his providing me the opportunity to join him at MDOT was the pivotal turning point in my personal and professional life. It was during this time that I learned the basics of public service from this brave and courageous warrior who always stood for what he believed to be right, not just what he believed to be popular. Working in Commissioner Hall's office back then was a blast, primarily because of the other people that also were a part of the office. While Commissioner Hall became like a second father to me, Miss Ann McAlpin, his longtime secretary, was like another mother. And our office was one of laughter and fun, sometimes maybe a little bit more than the commissioner would have liked. One day, Donna Lum, who was the Director of Public Affairs at MDOT, came to see Commissioner Hall. Miss Ann and I thought it would be funny if I hid in front of Miss Ann's desk and jumped out and scared Donna on her way out of Commissioner Hall's office. Miss Ann's desk sat right by the door, so you had to go by her to get in or out of the office. So I squatted down in front of Miss Ann's desk, and she was operating as the lookout, only there was one problem. When Donna came walking out, Commissioner Hall was walking out right behind her, and there was no way for me to know it. Miss Ann started kicking the front of her desk to alert me that the commissioner had accidentally entered what would become known as the scene of the crime, and I thought she was just prompting me on that it was time to go. So I jumped out growling like a bear. Donna screamed bloody murder and turned around and started running up Commissioner Hall, who was totally oblivious to all this because he was reading a file. When he looked at me, I saw my life flash before my eyes. These types of situations would often test Commissioner Hall's patience, and more than once I heard him look at folks around us in situations like that, and he says, "He is proof I believe in hiring the handicapped." But eventually, Miss Ann and Shirley Rutland and I, we wore him down to the point that he would crack a smile or even laugh at our shenanigans. But he himself had a great sense of humor and razor-sharp wit. Once he gave Miss Ann a nice raise, and she was going on and on about how nice he was and how appreciative she was. And she said, "Commissioner, you're just so sweet." And he said, "Well, for God's sake, Ann, don't tell anybody." And he would often put other people up to doing this dirty work as well. A few years ago, another time Mississippi State beat Auburn, Commissioner Hall had Amy Hornback bring a stuffed MSU bulldog and a stuffed Auburn tiger to the commission meeting to be displayed prominently with a sign. This was all directed at the late Andy Hughes, who worked with the Federal Highway Administration and was an Auburn alumnus, that read, "We rang your bell." So he was a lot of fun. I believe there are 2 great days in life: the day you're born and the day you figure out why. When we reflect over Commissioner Hall's life, it seemed like he learned the why very early. First elected to public office while in his 30s, he would not retire from public life until well passing his 80th birthday. 44 years in total, more than half his life. 3 terms in the House of Representatives, 3 terms in the Mississippi Senate, and 5 terms on the Mississippi Transportation Commission. To indicate his leadership and contribution to our state, one can look at several legislative milestones of which he participated in and was very proud of. The 1982 Education Reform Act, the 1987 4-lane program, both of which took override of the governor's veto, both of which were paradigm shifting in their own way. But his signature piece of legislation was the creation of our state's rainy day fund during his time as Senate Appropriations Chairman. He was very proud of that, and that reserve fund has been a saving grace of our state many times since its creation. As Transportation Commissioner, he was a driving force behind the implementation of Vision 21, a needs-based highway program during the 2002 legislative session. The Multimodal Transportation Improvement Program, which provided funds for high-priority improvement projects to airports, ports, railroads, public transit systems, which were not otherwise available. He completed the stack in Jackson, saw the construction and completion of the U.S. Highway 82 Mississippi River Bridge in Greenville, the beginning of construction on U.S. Highway 49 in Rankin County, and Carl Ray, I believe, what I think was his personal favorite, the 4-laning of Highway 25 from Jackson to Starkville, and much, much more. Dick knew early why he was here and dedicated his life to the task. But at the center of Commissioner Hall's life, however, was his family. We all enjoyed hearing him tell stories about his parents, especially about Squatty Hall, his father. No doubt his dad played a powerful role in the development of Commissioner Hall's worldview and desire for public service. Commissioner Hall once told me that Squatty, who received his nickname for being rather short, wanted both of his sons to be at least 6 feet tall and to go into medicine or public service. Well, both ended up being 6 feet tall, and one was an accomplished doctor, and the other one became one of the longest tenured public officials in our state history. Dick was proud of his family, and to his personal branch of the Hall family, he was the undisputed patriarch. As Jennifer has said, he was their provider and protector. He, understanding the need for grace in his own life, provided unconditional love to each member. And I will say, as a child of parents who divorced, I always particularly admired the friendship that seemed to have endured between Commissioner Hall and Lisa. They both recognized how important maintaining a good relationship would be for their family, and Miss Lisa, y'all succeeded in doing that. Bob has said his dad was the best father anyone could ever hope for. Chris remembered his dad as careful and measured, considerate, articulate, and funny. Nathan and Allison using words like strong, caring, respectful, honest, the definition of a true gentleman, and my personal favorite, just simply Mississippian, to describe him. How better could a man want to be remembered by his family? He absolutely loved and searched for opportunities to create memories with his family. On his 70th birthday, he wanted as his present the opportunity for he and Jennifer to take their entire family to Idaho to go white water rafting. They went to Yellowstone, saw Old Faithful erupt, took a scenic raft trip down Snake River, and yes, folks, Dick Hall went white water rafting. The guide informed them that usually the one sitting in the back of the raft falls out first and asks for a volunteer. None of you cowards spoke up. They all just sat there. And so finally, Dick Hall raised his hand and took the dreaded worst seat in the boat, but fortunately no one fell out. When Dick and Jennifer married, they let Allison and Nathan help choose the house, and of course they wanted one with a swimming pool. And I actually remember this. Dick had had swimming pools before in other homes, and he really did not want another one. But he saw how much they wanted it, so he got it. And the swimming pool served its purpose for lots of family gatherings, not to mention helping teach grandchildren how to swim. Dick and Jennifer were a successful campaign team, always working events and festivals. Dick and Jennifer loved traveling over 26 different countries. And to Jennifer, Dick was the love of her life, always being the perfect gentleman, except when it came to his beloved black cast iron skillet, which he made clear she was never to even touch it because that was his cornbread skillet, and he really made some good cornbread. But he loved all family gatherings, especially Thanksgiving and Christmas, with many families talks all around while sitting around the dining room table. And I know you learned a lot from his stories because he was indeed a good storyteller. I used to pick at him saying that he was the only 84-and-a-half-year-old I knew with a mother-in-law. But he really loved you, Miss Wilson, and I know you loved him. And I suppose after family, his second love was his beloved Mississippi State University. He bled maroon and white. In fact, some of you may not know the reason the funeral is today rather than when it was originally thought to be scheduled on Saturday is because he had left strict instructions that if his death fell at a time where the funeral would be on a day that Mississippi State was playing at home, they were forbade from having the service then. When he and Jennifer bought their second home in Starkville, it allowed many opportunities to have family attend football games and spend even more time together, and he especially loved when his brother Don and cousin Hutch got to come and visit. And we cannot leave out the family bulldog, Abby. I am still utterly amazed that he willingly went along with pushing this bulldog around in a stroller at the Neshoba County Fair with a sign that said, "Please vote for my daddy." I don't know what y'all did to him after I left his staff, but I don't think Miss Ann and I could have gotten him to do that. But Abby was a hit. She even starred in Dick's campaign commercials and won over more voters at the Neshoba County Fair than he could. They were pushing Abby around the stroller, and everybody wanted their photograph taken with the commissioner and Abby, probably because they couldn't believe it either. But Governor Haley Barbour came over and told the commissioner, "Hey, your bulldog is getting more attention than I am." But even Haley had his picture made with Abby. You all are left with wonderful memories, and I encourage you to write them down and keep them close. In recent years, as Commissioner Hall and I both became a bit older, our relationship began to change. From the seasoned politician and the teenage kid, from the boss and the staffer, to ultimately old friends. He illustrated to me the value of having close friends older than you, because they're best equipped to help you navigate life's landmines. It's kind of like the old story of a fellow that fell down a hole. Doctor walks by and he yells up, "Please help me, I'm down this hole, I can't get out." The doctor writes him a prescription, drops it down the hole, and goes on his way. Then a priest walks by, and the guy yells up and said, "Father, please help me, I've fallen in this hole and I can't get out." The father voices a prayer over him, and then he goes on his way. And finally, an old friend came by. The man yelled up, "Please help. I've fallen in this hole and I can't get out." The old friend jumped down in the hole with him. The man said, "What are you doing? Now we're both stuck down here." He said, "No, you see, I've been down here before, and I know the way out." When I returned to Mississippi from Washington, I started getting texts from the commissioner. "Can you meet for a cup of tea?" After about 2 years of this, I finally asked him while we're sitting at the library, "Why are you referring to this as meeting for a cup of tea? We've never drank tea." And he responded, "I'm covering for you. This way, if the Baptist church ever gets your text message, they won't know we've been drinking this whole time." And he did cover for me for over 25 years. In all my time around politics and government, I learned more from Dick Hall than anyone else, especially in his later years. Commissioner Hall's faith in and relationship with God was extremely strong, and in recent years we would talk about it more than before. Like the old friend from the story I told a moment ago, he had faced life's trials and knew the way out. He would sum it up by quoting the Apostle Paul, "Forgetting what is behind, I press on toward the prize." He taught me that in life, a person can have a day of true triumph only to be followed by a day of complete failure. That we can have days when it seems like there's no way things can get any worse, only to have them followed by days when it seems like we're on top of the world. He would say we must develop two vital things to make it from this world to the next. The first was a relationship with Christ, and the second was a quality he described as stick-to-itness. He indeed knew the way out. It's been said the purpose of life is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have the results of your life illustrate that it mattered that you lived. And Dick's life reflects all these traits, and he taught them to all of us who had the pleasure of knowing him. I will forever be grateful that the last time I saw him was when me, Gene Clark, and Carl Ray Furr met him for what would be our last cup of tea. It was the night before he went to the hospital. And although he was obviously struggling, we still enjoyed old stories, old jokes, and many laughs. Jennifer, Bob, Chris, and the rest of the family, on behalf of us, all of us, thank you for the way in which you cared for him and loved him. He was blessed in life with a wonderful and caring family, and I appreciate the way y'all saw after him, especially toward the end. Everyone needs a Dick Hall in their life, and we can all be very thankful that Almighty God saw fit to put the real one in ours. So with that, thank you, Commissioner, for everything. We'll try to carry on your legacy just as you taught us. And in the meantime, be looking for a good spot in heaven for a cup of tea. So as soon as I get there, we can have one.